Hello, I'm John Underwood, the Managing Editor of Travel Talk, Australia's favourite travel news magazine, and a very warm welcome to Cruise Talk. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to be discussing the fastest growing sector in the Australian travel industry. And to do that, we've spared no expense gathering together some of the most experienced, some of the most influential, and it has to be said, some of the most good-looking cruise experts we could find. They'll be giving us some tips on opportunities for 2017 and beyond, and we're also going to be discussing some of the hot topics affecting the cruise industry. All of that information could be vital to both travel agents and to consumers looking to select, book and sell cruising. Yes, it's Graham Norton meets the Love Boat, and we've even got the big red chairs to prove it, so there you go. Okay, as with all important people, they've got very long titles, so I've had to write it down, so here we go. Let's introduce the panel. To my left, we have the delightful Lynn Clark, Managing Director of MSC Cruises. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you.
Next to Lynn is the tallest man in travel. It's Adam Davey. He's the Business Development Manager, Australia and New Zealand for Silversea Expeditions. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you.
To my right, it's Peter Kohler, the Head of Training and Development, Cruise Lines International Association, Australasia. Welcome, Peter. Next to Peter, we have Jeanette Wall, who's the Team Leader at Cruiseabout Balgowlah in New South Wales. Welcome, Jeanette.
Thank you.
And on the end, last but not least, is Matt Halloran, Personal Cruise Manager, Ocean Escape Cruising. Welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Peter, I'd like to start with you. Where does Australia sit in terms of the world cruise market at the moment?
Sitting quite pretty at the moment, actually. We're an industry that's grown double-digit growth over the last 10 years, even through the GFC, the only cruise market in the world to do so. So very strong. In fact, we've reached a point now where we're the highest penetration rate in the world, which means more of our Australians are cruising than any other capita around the world. So, you know, we've knocked off the Americans there for the last 2 years. So we're very proud of that. But at the same time, you know, that figure's 4.5%. So 4.5% Australians are cruising. Do we rest on our laurels? I say no, because that means 95.5% are doing something else. So there's still a lot of potential. And of course, you know, we're going to see some you know, potential caps here with some infrastructure challenges that we're going to face. But overall, I think we're extremely fortunate to be in the position we are. Australians have embraced cruising. We're also going to be leveraging off the Asian growth in the next few years. Yep. So that's with deployment of ships coming down here. We're already seeing that in the 2016-17 season with this new product coming through. So potentially, you know, the sky's the limit. We're in a very healthy position.
So you would say that growth is likely to continue?
Hopefully, yeah. I don't want to be the bearer of any jinx, but yeah, so far it's so good. So okay. And it's down to, you know, the agents are well trained. They're encapsulating, you know, cruise into their talk and their recommendations. Cruise lines are doing a fabulous job making holidays, you know, come true, dreams come true. Sure. So we're in a very, very good position.
All right, well, let's talk to some of the cruise lines. Lynn, there's a myth going around that, you know, cruising is only for people of a certain age. How have you seen that age demographic come down maybe in the last few years?
I think that goes back to those comments that were made, or that statement was the newlywed or nearly dead from years and years and years ago. The age demographic has reduced rapidly year by year. And the fact that the cruise industry actually appeals to all age demographics and actually is a holiday that can appease all different age demographics is something that all cruise lines cater for, and cater for extremely, extremely well.
Have you actually done anything specifically to lower that age group? I mean, have you put on specific things to target maybe a younger audience?
Oh, absolutely. We know how important the younger audience is. I mean, they are going to get older at some stage.
We all are.
So it's, you know, we'll start actually targeting from a very young age, and that makes sense because that all comes into the loyalty aspect of any program, which Australians do love. So we are targeting specific age groups and doing specific tacticals to actually cater to those certain markets. Young people, 18 to 29, absolutely love cruising because, as we all know, that generation loves great value and having glamour around them.
Sure.
And the cruise industry is something that can actually appease that, where they've got fantastic cabins, they've got meals included, of course amongst glamorous surroundings. They're cruising with us in the evenings, visiting different destinations during the day. They're not staying at some dodgy hostel, and of course the prices on cruises are absolutely incredible, so it's all about value.
Yeah, we'll touch on that a bit later. I just want to bring in Adam. You specialise in expedition cruises, and I think particularly for the age demographic, you've noticed that in the specialisation that you do.
Yeah, we do. A big portion of that is multi-generational travel now, where grandparents will take their grandchildren on voyages and on expeditions, and we literally have from 6 to 106 and everything in between. Whether they're young and want to explore the globe and go to the Antarctica or the Arctic or the Kimberley, of course, or they want to travel and sort of climb the mountains and do that all. So, or tick off those bucket list items. Of course, people retire and they've always wanted to go to these destinations. So doing that, but we definitely do that and cater for all those destinations. But with the expedition fleet, there is a minimum age of 6, only because legally we can't take any children under 6 onto the Zodiacs. But again, full any other age group, absolutely cater for those in between.
Sure. Okay. Let's turn to the coalface. Matt and Janelle, you do the booking side of stuff. Have you noticed in your bookings a real sort of decrease in the age demographic of people booking cruises?
Absolutely. I think probably it ties in, I guess, with the product that's out now as well.
Yep.
I mean, you've got cruise ships that got water parks on, water slides, you've got ice skating shows, you've got a whole range of different things, rock climbing, adventure sort of things as well. And I think that naturally brings down the average age, because the people are just getting on there, they're being active, they're doing things while they're cruising, then they're seeing the different destinations and stuff as well. Sorry.
I would agree with that. I also see that you're getting a lot of families cruising together, where they might have gone camping at some point, where they've still got to wash up, go and find the food, pitch the tent and do all those things. So for the person who does all that on a holiday, it's actually not quite such a holiday. Whereas as soon as they're on a ship, there might be 30 people and you've got adults with all the children. So, and the children are catered for. If they don't like something that's served up for dinner, they can get something else, which is such a bonus.
Sure. And
if you're taking teenage boys, they eat like every meal's their last. So, have another meal.
Yeah.
It's such an affordable way. And we're seeing larger multi-generational families and large groups of friends going with their children.
Sure. Lynn touched on it. Sorry, Peter.
Oh, I was just going to say it's quite interesting to see even the river cruise sector. We're seeing not only a drop in the average age demographic, but we're seeing particularly catered for family style cruises.
Right.
We're having it started 3 or 4 years ago, where there was some set departures by Tauck and Uniworld and so forth, where they'd have family-specific cruises, but now it's actually getting more and more, 12, 18.
Right.
And so here's a market that we never really associated with, the younger clientele. We always thought it was a mature market, but even they are finding a great drop in the average demographic coming on board.
That would boost the 4.6% you said.
4.5.
4.5.
We'll
I was
get to
close.
4.6.
I was close, but that will help, won't it? If younger people are coming through, then
and Lynn said it very smartly, very businesslike. She's taking care of her future. Right. So, they're the ones going to be purchasing the next ones. Sure. So why not get to them early?
Yeah. Okay. You talked about it earlier, the price. Again, a lot of people maybe think, I can't afford a cruise, it's way out of my budget. What would you say to those people who may think it's beyond their budget?
Well, the prices are there for everyone to actually see, and one of the things to do is to actually divide that price into a per diem, a per day cost. And once you look at the inclusions on a daily basis, then there isn't anything else that's actually going to come into that price point where you have that incredible value. You know, I've been with people on cruises, well, obviously on our cruises, where they are really still waiting to sign for their meal at the end of a meal. I'm saying, you really don't do that on a ship. We don't mind how many times you eat and how many times you enter into a restaurant, like having the buffet 20 hours a day, especially because we're catering for young people. And it's not only young people, everybody wants choice of when they want to eat and how they want to eat. So the fact that you have all your meals, obviously there's specialty restaurants as well, in that price, your entertainment is included, your cabin price is obviously included with the port charges. So it's all there, and then there's the optional extras. But you're not having to take control or remember every time you are having an additional pasta or salad or how much did I eat. So
No
all
one
those
counts the
things are great.
calories, do they,
No,
on a cruise?
absolutely
No,
not.
absolutely not.
So yes, so the value is there, and I believe that is a known fact in the industry now, that cruising is going to give you the best value.
Sure. And with your expedition sort of not the sideline, obviously a major part of what you do, but does that add an extra cost to the people who cruise with you?
Well, again, as Lynn really touched upon, there's a huge difference between cost and value.
Yeah.
You put a dollar amount on something, it can seem more expensive than others. However, when you look into it, the value that you're going to receive is there. And with expeditions, we go to 590 different destinations a year. We take our ships to. So, and everything on board is inclusive.
Yeah.
So there is no bills, and there is no checks or anything like that. All the shore excursions are included. So the value in that is great, and to do that. And it really is an opportunity to hit those destinations that they may not ever be able to go to. So definitely when it comes to cruising, there is something for absolutely everybody, from the budget contemporary cruiser all the way up to the ultra luxury and expedition cruiser. So the value is there in all levels.
Yeah.
So it is a huge misconception of cost versus value, but being in the industry for over 20 years, I really believe that expedition cruising and cruising in general is the best value vacation you can ever take.
Sure. I would assume that given what Adam just said about the variety of price points, that makes your job a lot easier, because you've got someone coming in wants to go on a cruise. You've got a range of prices that you can offer them. Does that help make your job easier?
Absolutely. I think the important thing is to qualify what their expectations are and what they're after, and there is something out there for absolutely everybody. But it's up to us as agents to ask the right questions to make sure we put them on the right ship.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the work in us as agents, as experts in the cruising arena, is to basically qualify those clients and make sure that you're matching the right person to the right cruise, because if you don't, they're likely not going to come back again.
Yeah.
So they have to be on the right product, that they're going to enjoy that experience, enjoy that cruise. And yeah, that's our job as cruise experts and trained with Clear, to be able to do that.
Can I ask a question? Because I'd love the insights of agents.
It's my job.
I know, but it's my training. But I'm interested to know. I still see in our landscape of retail that people are coming in with an offer, and you're responding. Not you particularly, but you're responding to it. Yep. So you said you got to match the person to the right, product and so forth. How much do you say? I can appreciate what you're coming in with, but I actually don't feel this is right for you. Is that something that's common, or is it? I mean, you're two more experienced ones, but can you see it in the industry, or are they just taking orders?
I think the industry, from a retail perspective, it's very much price driven these days. The consumer is coming in thinking price over and above anything else. So I think for us as agents, the hardest thing is to actually get away from that price driven mentality, because it may not be a suitable product for them. And just actually chat with those clients and just say, look, this may not be suitable for you. It may be an older demographic on that ship, and you've got a younger family going on it. So you need to sort of, I guess, turn that conversation around and just say, look, this is possibly a better product for you. You're going to get much more out of it in terms of your own experience. And that's where the conversation needs to head. But I think at the moment it is very much a price-driven sort of market. So
But you can do that because you're experienced.
Yeah,
You two are, some of the top ones we have in Australia. So I suppose a younger, new into the retail industry probably wouldn't have that confidence to go against what they're coming in with.
I think with that, that's up to us as team leaders or managers or whatever our role is to actually make sure that our new people actually understand that, in the words of the Spice Girls, tell me what you want, what you really, really, really want, is often not what they want. No. So sometimes what they're saying is actually not what they mean, but they're driven by the price, but they would have the most awful time and they would say cruising was terrible. So it's up to us as leaders and managers to educate our new people and Claire to get them up to speed with being confident to say that this is possibly not the right product for you. I could offer you this, this or this. I think will suit you better because.
And that's
I think
obviously
that's
where
key.
your skill as travel agents come into it. I'd like to ask you, without throwing things at my friends down this end, do you think that the cruise lines give you enough help and information to do the job that you do?
Yeah, look, I do. I mean, there's plenty of material both online and in brochure sort of material, but if you don't have the experience and the training behind you to understand a lot of those intricacies within the industry, you'd be on Struggle Street.
Yeah.
I think you need that sort of experience and that training combined with your own personal experience. I think that helps a great deal. I think the training will only take you so far. But anyone that's wanting to sell cruise needs to be fully involved and say, look, this is something I want to do, this is something I want to experience, and actually pass that experience on as well as the training. And it comes as a package in terms of the person selling that for people. So I think it's very important that needs sort of combined with the training and the personal experience to bring that expertise through to consumers.
Your agency is a specialised agency that sells cruising.
Yeah.
What frustrations do you have on a daily basis about selling cruise, or are you just totally happy in doing what you do?
Probably our biggest thing is time constraints because I guess it's busy, which is a great problem to have. I think it's probably purely that we could have having enough qualified consultants to sell cruise properly is the limit of how well your business does. Because the business is out there and it's a matter of just, as I said, qualifying the people. We get a lot of reps in who update us on the product, and if you're open to the learning, it's there.
Sure.
Yeah.
That leads me on to Peter. You look after the training of agents.
Yeah.
Are you finding it hard to get the right people trained, or what's the issue with the training of agents?
Well, I think the uptake's great. We're seeing a massive uptake in mobile agents at the moment, individual agents. We're actually quite proud of where we stand in compared to the rest of the world as far as our training. The training that we've developed here is now being used in the UK, throughout Europe, and soon to be Asia. So the agents here have a great foundation to start with, and exactly how Matt said about the experience. Training's one aspect, and it's great, but nothing beats experience. And part of our accreditation program. So for those that are uninitiated, you can go and visit a cruise specialist who have certain levels of accreditation, but anybody with any level of accreditation has had to have done a cruise as part of the accreditation process. Right. So you can't get anybody accredited who hasn't had the experience. Sure. And so I think that's important as well, and we'll continue to develop that aspect of it, as well as a few other engagement type protocols into our training. But I'm very confident of what they have available. Mm-hmm. But just like any other business, you can have 1,000 people, and 10% will go to the stop and write things down and take it all aboard, and you get others who go through it, and you get others. So, part of one of the challenges I have is getting everyone engaged. Yeah. And so that's something I'll be looking at with my global partners in 2017-18 to really create this cruise community where we were feeding off others. Matt can type in, hey, to the UK agent, how do you feel about this and that, and just leverage over each other and build this community so that we are a stronger essence.
Good to hear we're the number one in the world, though. That's really good. You guys, I mean, obviously, agents as experienced as these, they must be a delight to work with. I mean, how important is the relationship between what you do and the agents that sell your products?
Oh, absolutely. It's vital to our business. They play a huge role. And so, you know, when people ask, are we actually giving the right information to agents? Are we training them in the right way? It's actually a two-way street, because we have to listen and ensure that we're delivering things in the way that is easy for the agents, and hence the reason why we all work together. So the industry's, it's an integral part of our business, absolutely.
Sure. Same with you, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It is our number one focus, is trade relationships and development. So that's why sort of the role of the on-the-road BDM is so important with me, is going out and working face-to-face with not only the most experienced of travel agents, but also meeting the novices and bringing them up to sort of a level of knowledge to give them comfort in selling the voyages as well.
And do you try and sort of go the scope across all agents, or do you just predominantly just deal with the ones that sell a cruise? You try and get everybody involved.
Well, absolutely. How long is a piece of string? I mean, the market has grown to the extent that it has, and a lot of the demand has actually come from consumers who are then driving it into travel agencies. So through that knowledge, the agencies are actually, in some ways, those that haven't embraced cruising are actually really forced to come into the wonderful world of cruising, because it is a massive business. So yes, it's on both sides.
Sure, sure. Let's talk about something that I don't really understand: social media and modern Wi-Fi and that kind of stuff. Most of the cruise lines now supply it. Is it something that you just have to have? Is it almost become expected now?
Yeah.
I'm a bit nervous.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is, and it's for all purposes. I mean, it's a great way of passengers promoting us, and it's really bringing out the emotional aspect on a day, in a moment in someone's life. So there's so much that goes on with it. I mean, would you agree?
Absolutely.
It's part of daily life. It'd be like going on a ship and not having a cabin, really.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's life now.
And with expeditions as well. I mean, people are sending Instagrams and Snapchats from
Absolutely.
weird and wonderful places.
Yeah, all over the globe. Although if you ask the onboard management, they love it when they go to 83 degrees north and they lose satellite reception for a couple of days. So they get their peace and quiet. So, but yeah, it is integral, and going in the development of where it's gone from the dark old days of not having it at all to everybody has it right in their suite now. It really is. And communication is key, and sharing your vacation and your experiences with your family is one of the biggest pleasures of going on holidays. So people love to share that with their families and friends, and to do that, Wi-Fi is definitely an integral part of our operation and our products. And
also I've seen some cruise lines now will have an app where you can sort of walk around the ship and you get tours of it, and all your brochures are online. Is that the future of where we're going?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that worry you guys down the other end, that people are going to do all their sort of cruise?
I don't think so, because I mean that's where the consumer's at. I mean, we're all on Facebook, we're all on Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, and so it's just a natural extension that you use that on a cruise. So it's just naturally expected, and that expectation is sort of been raised over the last couple of years. And I think the cruise lines it's been a bit of a road because of satellite communications and all that sort of thing. But it is being met. I mean, you've got cruise lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean have their little hashtag things that your selfies at sea and all that sort of thing, and they have various internet packages with social media packages or email packages or whole streaming packages sort of thing. So the bar has been raised, and the cruise lines are continually working on that and bringing that to the fore.
And I think the thing that we can't forget or dismiss is the mature traveller is embracing that technology as well. It's not just the 30-somethings who are doing it. Mm-hmm. You're seeing the 60, 70 plus are really getting into their iPads, and they might sort of find it a little bit challenging, but they really are embracing it. So to think that they're not looking online for what's happening would be really foolish.
Yeah, if you ask me 5 to 10 years ago, what was the weakness in the cruise industry? It was definitely connectivity.
Right.
You know, it was probably the last piece of the holistic experience we're having at sea that was missing. And cruise lines, all brands, have, you know, gone into great probably depth to partner with telecommunication companies now and have their satellites, and you know, and now we're seeing bundling and packaging. We've gone from per minute charges to per day charges. We're seeing available now free on some of the vessels, and it's now being embraced. And the cruise lines now have that capacity and the infrastructure. All the dry docks that go in, you know, one of the most costly bits is actually putting in all the wiring and everything for that component. So it's actually been a massive investment by the cruise lines, a very conscious one, because they're obviously aiming for that millennial and that multi-generational cruiser. And if you don't have connectivity, you're not going to get any of those. So it's a big investment, and it's working. I'd like to see agents use it more, not only in pre and post. I'd like to see them use it during the cruise. You know, your clients away, engage with them, show, you know, everybody else what they're doing, and they're my client having a great time. So there's so many more ways to use it as well, I think.
Yeah. I guess also it's a reaction to what we were talking about earlier about the age demographic coming down. It's the young people maybe driving it, and then as Jeanette said, the older people are embracing it. Let's talk about environmental responsibility. This is a hot topic at the moment. How seriously, obviously, does MSC take their environmental responsibility?
We've always taken it extremely seriously, and it's something that right from the beginning we've looked at, especially that we have to consider that MSC is actually the largest privately owned shipping company in the world. So we have, you know, 475 container ships as well. So the oceans are our world. And we know that we have to protect those worlds or the world. So it's something that you have to do. That's our business.
And with expedition particularly, you know, you're going to remote areas, you've got to worry.
Well, that's it. We have the fortune of going to some of the most remote, beautiful places in the world. And for all intensive purposes, Antarctica is the same as when Mawson visited or Shackleton visited over 100 years ago. And to look after that pristine environment is number one priority of Silver Sea Expedition. But not just the physical environment, it's also the wildlife. And taking care of and being sort of environmentally responsible when it comes to keeping your distance from the wildlife. And we're entering their environment, so we have to respect that as well. So those are two of the biggest priorities of our fleets.
It's good to see. And I think, Peter, you were saying to me earlier that it's something that you're obviously very passionate about at Clear as well.
Definitely. Unfortunately, through the media, sometimes we get this negative press. But a lot of people, like, first of all, Clear is actually one of the advisories to the International Maritime Organisation, so United agencies that, you know, are really responsible for the protocols around marine and protection and so forth. And they're the innovators. The cruise lines are the innovators in this technology. You know, whether it's emissions, whether it's taking care of communities as well that you visit. You know, they are very strong advocates of that. Is first of all, safety is number one for both passengers and crew, and secondly, it's the environment. And if anyone ever has concerns about what the cruise industry is actually doing in that space, I'd really recommend them visit www.cruisingforward, or cruiseforward, I should say, .org, which is a website that Clear has built for that purpose, to educate about the work that's been done in environmental protection, sustainability and so forth, because there is a lot.
I'm interested to know whether environmental concerns, safety issues, what's the kind of pecking order you get, if you want to use that word, when people book a cruise? Is it price number one, or in your opinion, what's the kind of top five that they look for?
I definitely would say that price is not the main driver. They might come in with a price, but on qualifying what they're after, it possibly will be an experience, or it'll be fine dining, or it'll be activities for the children. It might be remote destinations.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I don't find a huge amount of inquiry in terms of safety or environmental things from clients when they're looking at a cruise. I think there's possibly an underlying expectation that those things should be taken care of, and if they weren't, I'd be hearing about it. So yeah, it's not really high on people's priority. They may do a bit of research beforehand on that, but to be honest, I don't get a huge amount of inquiry from people on those particular topics when they're looking for a cruise.
All right.
I think it might be different if your clients are very expedition orientated. I mean, you'd get it. Whereas we get certain cruise lines where, because they're so, environment is their life. That's what they do for a hobby, and they go track. For those type of people, and it's a small market, but they would be conscious of the footprint.
Sure.
Yeah.
This whole debate has pretty much come about because of the success of the cruise industry. There's been a lot of publicity about whether the government's doing enough to support cruising. We're here in Sydney. There's all kinds of talk about, we need more facilities. I'm interested from you guys. Do you think enough is being done to support the cruise industry?
Well, looking from where it started to where it is now, I think we've come leaps and bounds with governmental support and getting behind where the industry has progressed. The new builds of different piers, and going from a national standpoint, the development of new ports around Australia, not just Sydney, is exciting, and there is a vested interest in the government to build the industry here in Australia, which is very exciting.
Lynn?
Well, yes, there is a lot that still has to be done, obviously, and the reason why a lot of these new ports are being found, and because they have to be found, because we all know, how many ships are trying to get into Sydney Harbour, for example. So cruise lines are very resilient, and infrastructure is one of the most important things to our business. So if we've got the support of infrastructure here and around the world, that's what really keeps the wheels in motion, so to speak. So there's always more that can be done, and we don't home port in Australia. What has been done in Europe and other developing countries, Peter mentioned Asia, China, is remarkable. So that's where a lot of things are happening in those developing countries for cruising, where you have got people and governments that are investing in the infrastructure.
Peter, you've got a few opinions on this, I'm sure.
I do. What's going to get me in trouble the least? Look,
You're amongst friends.
I believe, New South Wales ports are trying to do their best with what they have and given to them, and the government is starting to open up dialogue, which we didn't have not even 5 years ago. So yes, there is advancement, but we are behind. There is no doubt we're behind. I look at Asia. I do a lot of work with Asia. We're looking at new development of ports for the smaller cruise lines, the expeditions to get in. Then we're getting upgraded of existing facilities to cater for the larger ships. We're getting what through Asia was always predominantly cargo, orientated ports, now getting cruise dedicated terminals. So we're getting infrastructure there. We're getting waiver systems between governments through the ASEANs, so that you don't have to go through the visa process all the time. We even got India the other day, who are relaxing their cabotage laws so they can have a cruise within India without going to international waters. The governments are working together to make sure cruising thrives. They understand the economic value of cruising. Now, from our point of view, that's part of our job at CLIA, to teach the government about the economic boom, the 4.2 billion that we're generating each year into the economy. And, from our point of view, yes, it's only recently that we've started, giving them the figures, and we started dialogue. So it's positive in that sense. But from a port infrastructure and what can be done for us, when I see us compared to other areas of the world, and I'm just using Asia as one example, but Europe's a great one, we're behind. We need support. It's a thriving, positive for our economy and our way of life for many businesses you wouldn't even consider. People who produce laundry, the farmers. There are so many dependents on the cruise industry.
Yeah.
So we need support, but rather than being negative, we are moving forward, which is great, but we've got a lot of work to
Slowly.
do. Yeah.
Where should that support come from? Are you saying that there should be maybe a minister of cruising?
Yeah, I'm not going to go into
Put it
the
out.
Not going to go into
politics.
that?
No.
All right, okay, moving on. I promised earlier that we would give a few insights into 2017. Lynn, I'll start with you. What's exciting you about what you've got lined up for next year or for 2017?
The fact that forward bookings are so incredible, that's very exciting.
Makes them happy too.
So it does, of course it does. And so it's going to be a very fast year. It's the new markets that we went into, such as Cuba, Havana, and home porting in Havana has been great in giving people the opportunity to go there. Some of the areas, Europe is big again. It really is. And Northern Europe, and I think you'll agree, is massive business. It really is.
Sure.
So for us in Europe, and then having Havana is good.
Yeah, back to Cuba. Adam?
Well, probably the most exciting thing on the horizon for 2017 is our Silver Cloud rejuvenation. The Silver Cloud, which was our mothership, she started Silver Sea and she's been in our ultra luxury fleet now for over 20 years. We'll undertake a 63-day dry dock in August and enter the market in November as the Silver Cloud Expedition. So first and foremost, she'll be an expedition ship. Her hull will be ice strengthened, so she'll be a polar ship, so be able to take that, as well as mudrooms and 18 Zodiacs to go on Zodiac's simultaneous expeditions. So 100 will go on shore, 100 will go on Zodiacs in Antarctica, which will be something really, really exciting that's on the horizon. So I know it's a year away, but we're already warming up to it and getting very, very excited. And forward bookings have been tremendous because having an ultra luxury ship being converted into expedition has never been done before. So it's really, really exciting to be able to offer that product to the world market, but particularly to the Australian market.
Which is the same for us with 2 new ships
Yeah.
on the horizon as well, 2 new prototypes. So again, that's huge opportunity, for growth in the market.
Is it coming to the point where there's literally nowhere on Earth where a cruise ship can't go?
I don't believe there is a limit to it. With the expedition, we're going into Bangladesh for the very first time, and we're going to be the first cruise line ever to go into Bangladesh. And looking even more forward to 2018, 200 new ports, new to Silver Sea expeditions will be explored. So I don't know if there is a limit. I think we're only limited by our imagination. So it is a very, very exciting industry to be in.
And infrastructure.
Can I add, there's a great point you've made. Part of my background was working on board Crystal Cruises, but this happens with other lines as well. You don't limit yourself just to the port that you're visiting. Yeah. So I was very fortunate to take groups inland to places. We had tours to Nepal. How many cruise passengers go to Nepal? I mean, how good's that? And you do all your safaris or your Cappadocias, so cruise lines don't limit themselves to ports. I know the world's 70% ocean, but you can virtually see the whole world through cruising.
The whole world.
The whole world.
Hey, I'm going to get myself on a cruise. From the coalface again, what destinations are you picking up on for next year that we might see getting a spike in the cruise industry?
Well, I think probably for this market, Ovation is a huge boost to this market. Just having a brand new piece of hardware come here, which sort of comes in tomorrow for us. South Pacific sort of cruising from here is always popular. There's a whole bunch of new to cruise sort of people that are always cruising on any of the cruise lines out of here. I've actually spent some time working at some of the ports in Sydney and just seeing the people check in and all that sort of thing. And the proportion of people that have never cruised before that are cruising on these ships out of here is quite a high sort of proportion. So that is just going to continue. Your expedition cruising, people are really sort of starting to discover the small ship or smaller ship sort of experience and getting out to those far-flung places that they may not have even considered. I mean, even places like Galapagos and all those pristine wilderness sort of environments, that is sort of spiking people's imagination. Particularly those that have cruised before, they've done the cruise locally and now they're looking further afield and getting more experience. So it's just there's no sort of end in sight to the growth, as Peter sort of said before. There's really nothing stopping us at this point.
Jeanette, have you noticed any particular?
I think it's crucial. With it's great to hear that there's 200 new ports coming on, because you've got some incredibly well-travelled people who've been everywhere, and so when we're bringing 200 new ports in, well, they haven't been everywhere. There's somewhere else for them to go. They're looking for new hardware, new ships, new experiences. So the more the cruise industry develops all of this variety, it just gives them a reason to keep going.
So I think to sum up everything that's been said tonight, what we're saying is, and you said it at the very start, cruising is going really well in Australia, but there's a lot of growth potential out there. So we could be sitting here next year and going, well, we've just doubled our... I mean, is it exciting for you guys to be working in the industry where there is so much potential for growth?
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. I see it from the retail sector, where initially at CLIA, the cruise specialised training, we had cruise specialists who, partook in that program. But as the years went on, there are agencies who didn't even like cruising or didn't want to sell cruising, but they had no choice because their customer was dictating what they want to be sold. Yeah. And so they've started to become on board. So now it's actually quite unusual to have an agent that is not selling at least some sort of cruise, because it's dictated by their client. So we're going to see more and more of that, hopefully.
And also we were talking about river cruising. I think Matt touched it. That's also becoming quite popular, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Europe's going strength to strength. One of the really exciting bits is the Asian rivers. Yes, you've got your traditional Mekong and Yangtze, but you've got the Irrawaddy, which is just a fabulous trip, as well as the Ganges. But not only the new routes, but you've also got established cruise lines that have been in our market for some time who used to lease vessels. So the experience wasn't quite the same, transferable to a bit of an older inventory. But now they've got their own new builds, which is quite new. So this has only really eventuated in the last 2 or 3 years. So you're getting that quality in these remote areas, and that's opened up. I actually don't even know if it's that. I don't know how sales are for you for Irrawaddy and on some of these new builds. So
availability is the issue.
Yeah, availability is the issue.
Yeah,
oh, that's good.
It's really taken off.
It's a good issue to have.
A lot more interest, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But also, touching on the rivers, when the people are going to Europe, they might have taken a cruise and then hired a car and done a few other things. Now they might they're often taking on an ocean cruise to a river cruise, because what might have been a coach tour or a driving holiday before is now a river cruise and an ocean cruise, because of the ease.
Yeah, and I think the opportunity there is there now, where people that maybe, talking Europe specifically, people in the past may have done a coach tour, just done 30 days around 10 dozen different countries or whatever. They may still do that, but now they're seriously considering a cruise as part of that trip. So the opportunity to actually package sort of traditional land things with a cruise, airfare and all that sort of thing, I think there's a lot more creativity in what people are doing with their holidays and incorporating a cruise portion of that within that trip.
That's why they need an agent.
Exactly.
Well, that's awesome. Fly cruise packages. I mean, we've seen a lot of them. Is this something that's going to continue to develop for you guys?
Well, we do a lot of fly cruise packages, and the reason that we started them in the first place was to actually help the travel industry, to show them the ease of getting people to Europe, that there are good flight prices, having pre and post arranged if necessary, and as well as having the flexibility to add on at the end, because everything that a consumer is looking for, really, it's choice. So we do a lot to help the industry. It's good commissions for them. Everything's done for them. So it's a lot of work for us, but yes, we've committed to doing it, and we still have committed to it. So yes, it is there.
Commissions was the secret word you used there, wasn't it?
Yes.
Secret word.
Yes.
Fly cruise?
Well, very, very exciting. As of the first week of December, we're actually launching Silver Air in Australia. So we've just now started our air department. So we've got all our authorization for that. So they are becoming more and more sort of packages put together, really trade centric. So fly free, subsidised flights for the trade, as well as ease. With the expedition fleet, we sort of may do a turnaround on Easter Island or Palau or Korora, and some of these destinations are not the easiest to get in and out of. And for people that don't necessarily book flights in and out of these destinations, it takes time to look into it. So we'll have a fly option. So they're just a simple fly add-on with commissions, of course. So we're very, very happy to be able to offer that to the Australian market for the first time. So that's exciting.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. Lynn, the ocean cruising market, there's a lot of people obviously cruising. How do you guys at MSC stay ahead of the rest?
Well, number one, we still a family-owned and operated business, so we move very quickly, and we are running a business. When we look at where we started, when we built our first new cruise ship in 2003, and currently we're selling 14, and in fact by 2026 we'll have 23 cruise ships. We have committed to the market. We have committed to building new prototypes, to always pushing and developing new and exciting things. The fact that MSC has that wow factor. How do we stay ahead of the market? It's being on top of your game, and most importantly, knowing the psychology of consumers, what they're looking for, the needs of people, and staying abreast of that.
And expedition obviously is a developing market, but again, a lot of people playing in that market. Same question there. How do you come up with something that your competitor maybe doesn't have?
Well, very, very similar to MSC. We are a privately owned company as well, so we can act quickly. When it comes to expedition, we really feel that we don't need gimmicks for Antarctica. We try and deliver a very strong core expedition product, and we're very, very proud of that core expedition product. The way that we stay ahead is purely through port sort of destination development. So having that 590 different ports in 2018 for 4 ships is quite amazing. We have our Galapagos that just goes around the Galapagos all year round, but between the Silver Cloud Expedition, the Explorer and the Discoverer, it does go to 580 destinations just for those 3 ships. So it's about finding those new destinations, those heritage sites, and they're not easy. It's years of negotiations to get into some of these exclusive places, but that's what keeps us ahead of the curve, having sort of access to these places that fewer than 1,000 people in the world get to visit every year. So very, very happy about
You've
that.
convinced me, folks. I'm going to go and book a cruise right now. That's all we've got time for, folks. I hope you found that as interesting and informative as I did. I'd like to thank my panel very much for coming along. That was really enjoyable. I'd like to thank MSC for hosting us here tonight, and particularly to Donna for all the arrangements. Thanks to Blue Bucket Media for all their work, and also to all the great team at Travel Talk, particularly Christine, who actually helped set all this up. My name is John Underwood. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.